Good afternoon, all the participants. On behalf of IRIFM, I extend warm welcome to each one of you for today's webinar on model schedule of powers, including latest revision of negative powers of General Manager. To take up the session, we have Shri Mohd Afzaluddin, retired as Senior AFA, South Central Railway, presently working as faculty IRIFM. Welcome, sir, and it's over to you to come on the session.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brenner. Good afternoon, all the participants. The topic we'll be discussing today will be the MSOP 2018, to be read with the correction slip, latest correction slip issued on 21st of September 2021. The number is CS90. So this session is basically designed for the candidates for 3A, the candidates who are aspiring to become AOs through LDC 70%, and also the officers who have joined recently into the service, and also the officers who wants to know, the staff, the section officers and the officers who wants to know what has had recently been revised in the negative powers. So after a long time we are taking up this class MSOP, because this is the apt time now, because there have been certain modifications, certain important modifications in the MSOP. So let me start with what is the MSOP? This is Model Schedule of Powers. Why do we call it Model Schedule of Powers? Because this is a model to be adopted on all Indian railways and PUs. This model can be adopted as it is, or depending on the local circumstances, the local requirements, the MSOP can be modified suiting to their local requirement, duly within the negative powers of the General Manager, duly given within the powers of the delegation given in the MSOP for the PHODs and DRMs. So certain modifications can be made. So that is why it has been named as MSOP, Model Schedule of Powers 2018. Earlier to this 2018 edition, there was an edition during 2017 also. That was the first edition. Before 2017, there were different SOPs. There were different SOPs in different railways and production units. The individual railway was having their own SOP. The Schedule of Powers, it was called. Certain the zones they used to call it as a DOP, Delegation of Powers. Schedule of Powers, Delegation of Powers is one and the same. So there were actually inconsistencies in the procedures followed, in the delegation followed in different railways, in different production units. There was no uniformity, and the delegation was restrictive. Some zonal railways, they were not giving powers to the divisions, redelegating the powers to the division. All the powers were with the General Manager or with the AGM, resulting in procedural delays. So immediately after the transformation cell was formed, they first thought that these SOPs prevalent on various railways and PUs should be studied, and we should bring some model SOP. We should bring some model SOP. So for that, an ED's committee, Executive Directors Committee, was formed, which was assigned the task of studying various railways SOP and coming out with a model schedule of powers which can be adopted by the different railways. So within a span of 6-7 months, this entire process was completed. They studied and then they came out with a model SOP in 2017. So in the model SOP 2017, there were a lot of inconsistencies again, because certain procedures, some good practices of other railways were drafted into this MSOP 2017, and without much editing, modification, all these items have been as it is incorporated. So that was leading to some confusion. So again, so revision was done. Then finally, one MSOP clarified, screened MSOP has come in 2018. So 2018, they issued the letter, and then they said that all the railways are free to adopt this MSOP as it is, or they can make their own local arrangements. So, but most of the railways have straight away adopted this MSOP as it is, because it is very exhaustive with good powers, better powers than the earlier their SOPs, and good practices available in this MSOP, and it is an exhaustive one. It is like a guide to all the officers dealing with the proposals, dealing with the sanctioning of proposals or concurring of proposals. So every item has details, remarks. They have who can sanction, what extent, to what extent, if it can be sanctioned, and what are the conditions they should fulfill. So all those details are there in the. It is like an SOP. It's like a guide for any officers. It is not only a delegation of powers; it is also a guide. It's a manual type. If you probably every one of you have seen that MSOP while dealing with some proposal or the other. So today we will go into a little bit details, and then the latest modification is MSOP 2018. Because we also have to deal with the new entrants, and also with the section officers dealing with preparing for the examinations. So we should also a brief details about this MSOP also will go. What is the negative power, and what are the sources of this MSOP? What are the sources of powers which have been incorporated in this MSOP? Okay, so sources of delegation of administrative and financial powers in MSOP. So the first source is the GM's negative power. The Finance Code Volume 1, Chapter 5 has one annexure 2, which covers the powers of the general managers. It says that the following items requires the sanction of higher authority. That means higher authority here is the railway board. So these items the general manager cannot sanction. Other than that, the general manager can sanction the powers. So the starting sentence in that annexure says that the sanction of higher authority is necessary. That is why it is treated as a negative power. So what are the items which have been listed out, and what are the limits which have been listed out? Within that, the general manager can sanction. Beyond that, it has to go to the railway board. So that is why it is called the GNC negative powers. It is also available in our MSOP. If you see the MSOP, the annexure 1, there we have the sanction of higher authority is necessary for what are the items, and for the value beyond which the sanction of higher authority is required. That particular annexure now has been revised. It is revised. It is not. There are no enhanced delegation in that, but there are a lot of parts in the GM's negative powers annexure 2. There were a lot of parts: establishment, guested, non-guested, miscellaneous, works, different. So with the purpose of refining the negative powers, these have been redrafted, categorized, and few of the items have been deleted also, because if there are some existing instructions from Ministry of Finance, Department of Expenditure, that the creation of posts cannot be done because of there's a ban. as part of uh, the measures to be taken for curtailing the expenditure. They said that you cannot create the posts. You cannot create the post, permanent post. You cannot create the work charge post. You cannot create the temporary post. You cannot create even the non-guested posts. So those powers also now have been deleted from this GM's negative powers, meaning that all this creation of these powers should go to the relevant board. So this GM's negative powers is the main source for this delegation of powers in the MSOP. And then we have the general financial rules, GFR. GFR is also one of the documents now we should rely upon while exercising the powers, while delegating powers also. So this general financial rules 2017 edition is there. So most of the powers actually are available in GFR, but we have some within those powers only we have different delegations and different procedures, but duly keeping in within the purview of the GFR rules, general financial rules, because we are part of the central government now. So we need to follow the GFR also. There have been instructions, there have been letters from the railway board that we must also follow the GFR now, because we are the part of government. Earlier we were not, the GFR was not enforced on us, but now we have to follow this GFR also. Then other sources of delegation are various codes and manuals available in the our website, email website. Earlier we used to have the printed books, but now you do not take those printed books. It's available on the net. We have General Administrative Code, Finance Code, Volume 1, 2, Traffic Code, Volume 1. We have we have Establishment Code, Engineering Code, Stores, and other codes, Commercial Establishment and other manuals, etc. We have commercial circulars issued by Traffic Directorate, now and then, circulars issued by other directorates, including Transformation Cell, letters containing orders, directives, and decisions of the railway board, JPOs, and best practices of other railways, and certain clarifications and corrections issued to the existing instructions by the railway board. So these all form part of the sources for delegation of powers in the MSOP. So what was the need for MSOP? We already discussed it briefly. The main, the important need is for setting up of a benchmark. The transformation cell thought that we should set up some benchmark and uniformity in implementation of the decisions. There should be uniformity in implementation of decisions, simplification of the procedures and work processes on Indian Railway. And importantly, the familiarity of the orders, rules and procedures for the officers on transfer from one railway to other railway. The officers get transferred from one railway to other railway. If they have different SOPs in different railways, then it will be confusion for them. So if it is one MSOP, one delegation, then they know, okay, immediately after going to the other railway also, they need not find out what is the SOP, what is the delegation. They know the delegation already because they work in the other railways previously. Then purposes of delegation of more powers. During this MSOP, additional powers, more powers have been given to the frontline officials. So the idea was to empower frontline officials with adequate administrative and financial powers. They wanted to give greater autonomy to the divisions. Most of the proposals used to come to headquarters, delaying the processes. So the greater autonomy has been given to the divisions, DRMs. Most of the proposals are will be cleared in the divisions nowadays. Introduction of reforms, transparency in the procedures and processes, because everybody knows. An additional delegation as per the local rule. Suppose any particular railway requires additional delegation for particular officers, so they can give within the delegation available. So we'll go with the preamble of the MSOP first. Then we'll go to the parts. Then we'll see what are the highlights. Then we'll go into the correction slip, latest corrections. What are the corrections that have been made? And then we will also see how the corrections are issued. What is the procedure? Who is the nodal officer for issue of corrections? Those details also we will see, and we will also see some case studies. So preamble of MSOP, you see, it covers delegation to all PHODs, CHODs, HODs, DRMs, ADRMs, CDMs clearly. Earlier there were no powers for the CHODs. Only HODs and PHODs. Suppose in the case of there is no PHOD posted in a particular department, then there used to be some confusion whether the other HODs can exercise the powers of the PHODs or not. Now it has been clearly made that in the absence of the PHODs, CHODs can exercise the powers of the PHOD. It also covers delegation to the extent admissible to the CTIs. CTIs, they have different schedule of powers, but within this framework only, suiting to the requirement, CTIs have different schedule of powers. If no PHOD, that we already discussed, if no PHOD is posted, the CHOD can exercise the powers of PHOD. And one more thing, AGM can exercise the powers of the general manager unless the transaction requires the personal sanction of general manager. Now we had some doubt also what is personal sanction. Now we have seen what is the negative power. So sometimes we use the word personal sanction of general manager. What does it mean, personal sanction of general manager? That means the items which can be sanctioned only by the general manager. Generally, what happens whenever we send a proposal to the GM's office for sanction, if we mention that this requires the sanction of general manager, it will not be put up to the general manager for sanction. It will be put up to the additional general manager for sanction, unless it is clearly laid down that this particular item requires the personal sanction of general manager. Suppose we send some 100 items, mostly some 5 to 6 items only requiring the personal sanction of general manager. Remaining 90-85%, they don't require the sanction of the general manager. It can be sanctioned by the additional general manager. Suppose if there is no additional general manager, then it can be sanctioned by the general manager. It has to be sanctioned by general manager only. Then the specialty of this MSOP is it is clearly written against every item that whether concurrence is required or not required. The concurrence is required, it is said the concurrence is required, and when concurrence is not required, the item says this does not require the concurrence of finance. It is very clearly laid out. Very few items must have been left over there. So if nothing is written, whether it requires concurrence of the finance or doesn't require the concurrence of finance, then it requires the concurrence of finance. So if nothing is written, then it requires the concurrence of finance. It has also been clarified. And one more important thing, the MSOP also says that today we have got some MSOP with some corrections issued. Then all of a sudden a board letter comes in the morning. Board gives the revised delegation, additional delegation. In earlier days, what we used to wait for the correction slip to be issued to the SOP for implementation of those delegation of powers. But now we do not wait for issue of correction slips in the MSOP. It can be straight away implemented. That provision also has been made in the MSOP in the preamble. Okay. There is some request that I must also tell in Hindi. I forgot IRIFM-II. तो अब तक हमने देखा है कि MSOP आपको मॉडल शेड्यूल ऑफ पावर्स हैं. इसको MSOP क्यों बुलाते हैं? क्योंकि इसे मॉडल it has to be adopted by all the रेलवेज सब रेलवेज इसको अडॉप्ट करेंगे अपने अपने रेलवे के सिचुएशन के हिसाब से, जो रिक्वायरमेंट के हिसाब से उसको थोड़ा मॉडिफाई भी कर सकते हैं within those powers which have been already delegated. And हमने देखा various sources of MSOP, what are the various sources of the delegation, and हमने preamble के बारे में बात किया है. Now we'll see the parts of the MSOP. So we have works matters, medical matters, miscellaneous matters, stores matters, commercial matters, establishment matters, gazetted, non-gazetted, and additionally there is a security matters. In this MSOP we have an additional part as security matters. उसके बाद GM's negative powers, GM's negative powers ये annexure 1 में है. उसके बाद delegation of powers to DRMs and PHODs. Board has given specific powers to DRMs and PHODs. So those powers are also forming part of this MSOP. Those have been shown as annexure 2. So this is consisting of the MSOP: works matters, medical matters, miscellaneous matters, stores matters, commercial matters, establishment matters, security matters, and the negative powers and also DRM powers. Morning there was a discussion. Some query has come after issue of this latest revision of powers. Of course, we will discuss that later. In this MSOP, there are some improved delegation of powers, like full powers to AGM, additional general manager, to waive demurrage and warfage. Earlier it was sanctioned personally by general manager. Now this can be sanctioned by the AGM also, demurrage and warfage, full waiver. Full powers to DRM for renting of space for opening of this passenger non-railhead location, PRS system. पहले क्या होता था, अगर कोई किसी ने PRS VDS सेंटर खोलना है कहीं, तो उसका बड़ा प्रोसेस होता था डिवीजन में. उसको एक जे ग्रेड कमिटी उसको फिर रेकमेंड करती थी, DRM रेकमेंड करते थे, फिर हेडक्वार्टर्स में फिर एक कमिटी बैठती थी, देन GM को. देयर वाज अ लेंथी प्रोसीजर. पर नाउ द पावर्स हैव बीन गिवन टू द DRMs स्ट्रेट अवे. अभी full powers to DRM for providing new UTS PRS also. अभी जो ऊपर वाला था, this was PRS at non-railhead, and this PRS UTS new PRS UTS also the DRMs can do. And the PHODs, CHOD, DRMs have full powers to accept earning contracts. पहले ऐसा होता था कि जो अर्निंग कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है उसका एक लिमिट होता था 50 लाख, उसके ऊपर फिर हेडक्वार्टर्स में आते. अभी नाउ DRM कैन एक्सेप्ट एनी अमाउंट ऑफ अर्निंग कॉन्ट्रैक्ट. अर्निंग कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कौन से जो लीजिंग ऑफ पार्सल स्पेस, ब्रेकिंग वैन, बीपी, पार्किंग, पब्लिसिटी, ये सभी मैटर्स में DRM हैज फुल पावर्स. PHOD, CHOD, DRM have full powers to refund fares also covered by tariff under rules up to 20,000. Earlier 20,000 था, अभी full power. No proposal needs to come to the headquarters now. Or commercial licensing of railway land, DRM full powers with the 3-member JAG SG recommendation and as per policy guidelines. So licensing of railway land need not come to headquarters now. It can be done in the division itself. Condemnation of MNB में भी बहुत सारा लंबा प्रोसीजर था. Now it has been simplified. For overaged machines, all the officers of the JAG mechanical have full powers. अगर machine overage हो गया तो the J grade officer mechanical he can condemn. DRM, ADRM have full powers to condemn without finance concern in respect of MNB of more than 75% of life. Life अगर 10 साल है, अगर 7.5 साल हो गया तो उसको कर सकते हैं DRM, ADRM without finance concern. And CWB has full powers for condemnation of underage MNB with finance concurrence. अगर underage 5 साल 4 साल हो गया, तो अगर finance agree करती है तो CWB. So these powers have been given to avoid unnecessary processes. And the powers have been given for general manager with finance concurrence for condemnation of the coach where age is less by more than 1 PHOD cycle. MNB proposals. GM, PHOD, CHOD has up to 50 lakhs, DRM 20 lakhs and SAG 10 lakhs. But for COVID items like oxygen plants, the general manager have been given powers up to 1 crore. GM can sanction procurement of two-wheelers for RPF post, but he cannot sanction the procurement of vehicles. On replacement account, they can process only for the essential services. The important modification in this, one of the important is monetary limit of tools and plants. It has been enhanced to 10 lakhs. Earlier it was 1 lakh. Earlier, पहले क्या problem होता था? Suppose even if you want to procure small item of machinery, which is costing 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs, then we used to process under the MNP because it is chargeable to capital. Now the board has given powers that up to 10 lakhs we can charge it to the revenue. Up to 10 lakhs. Up to 10 lakhs, the cost will be treated as the tools and plants, expenditure on tools and plants, small tools and plants. So up to 10 lakhs, you need not process. I get last one. Okay. Replacement of additional tools and plants, DRM 5 lakhs, CHOD up to 8 lakhs, and then GM up to 10 lakhs. GM, DRM, CWM can execute projects on boot basis. Earlier, all the boot proposals used to come to headquarters. Now it can be done in the division itself. And another significant, DRM can enter into service contract up to rupees 100 crores. DRMs can also finalize agency on quotation basis, irrespective of the value in case of termination of the existing service contract. मान लो existing service contract उसका validity खत्म हो गया, tender could not be finalized. DRM has powers to award the work on quotation basis up to 1 crore. इतना powers दिए हैं क्योंकि we have to maintain the station. We can't run the station without a agency for housekeeping. One more important delegation here: GM may permit air travel on duty to the officers up to junior scale. Officers up to junior scale and above. It is not up to junior scale; it is junior scale and above. The general manager has powers to permit air travel. Suppose if you want to send some senior section officer non-guested, then we need to take the approval of the board. There are some questions which I'll reply later on. I'm getting some messages, so at the end I'll reply those. GM, DRM make outsource PV activities in case of vacancies, and station directors shall be considered equivalent to the branch officers for exercising these powers. Monetary limit for procurement of PCs, recently it has been revised a couple of days back. Now it is 90,000 for SAG and above, 70,000 all guested officers up to JAG, SG, and 50,000 for non-guested staff. Recently, a couple of days back, it has been revised. These are some other delegations. GM can approve training to railway employees in outside institutions with an annual ceiling of rupees 1 crore per annum, 50,000 course per person. DRM can also approve training to non-guested staff with a per course per person ceiling of rupees 40,000. DRM can sanction ex gratia payment to railway servants who dies on duty. Earlier it was GM. PHOD can sanction NHA, National Holiday Allowance, to essential staff in headquarters also. Earlier, the NHA was limited only to the divisions. Now the powers have been given. Earlier, they used to go to, suppose any specific employee required NHA, then they need to go to general manager. Now, but PHOD, CHOD also can sanction NHA for the identified essential staff in case of the national holiday allowances. And no approval is required for tour program for GM and DRMs, only information to be sent to the controlling officers. DRMs have full powers for inter-railway divisional mutual request transfers for divisional posts, control cadre. So those were some of the improved delegations available in the MSOP. Now we will discuss about the highlights of the latest revision of the negative powers the general manager, which is the correction slip number 90. As per the DO letter, they say that this correction slip has been issued. उसका जो synopsis है उसका है, the items have been updated. The existing items in the negative powers have been updated by incorporating the amendments already issued. The items which have lost relevance have been deleted. The items appearing in various parts of earlier delegation have been consolidated. The numbering system has been streamlined so that the coding of these items in the files will become easier. The items on which separate detailed instructions from railway board exist have either been omitted or only a brief reference has been given. The items which are not covered in this delegation will be governed by the existing portal provisions or subject specific guidelines from the railway board. Okay. So the index of these negative powers under GM's negative powers of correction slip 90, there are only A, B, C, D, F. That's all. Establishment matters one part, works matters another part, legal matters C, and commercial matters D, and matters related to railway assets is E, financial matters, sorry, miscellaneous matters is F. So there are 6 parts in these negative powers. Earlier बहुत सारे थे, उसमें और 3-4 ज़्यादा थे, उसको कंसाइज कर दिया गया, कंसोलिडेट कर दिया गया. You will see here the establishment matters. इसमें एक important जो delegation है, creation of permanent temporary work charge post both gazetted and non-gazetted. एक बहुत बड़ा modification है. इसमें क्या है, पहले earlier we used to have powers for creation of work charge post. General manager. We used to create temporary posts also. We used to create the non-gazetted permanent posts also. But now, because of the instruction from the Department of Expenditure, Ministry of Finance, that no department can create a permanent, temporary or work charge post, both gazetted and non-gazetted, without their approval. Any proposal has to go to board, board will send to DOE, and then there they will concur and give it to you, agree and give it to you if it is required. So creation of posts, we don't have any powers. But existing posts, suppose if you have existing cadre, general managers have powers to redistribute within the same cadre. For 1 year, powers have been given up to March 2022. The post can be created. एक जगह से दूसरी जगह we can create depending on the necessity. But we cannot create additional posts. अगर दूसरे पास vacancy से दूसरे पास surplus है, तो वहाँ से लेके इधर आप उसको इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं. And suppose the post is vacant up to 2 years, okay, but beyond 2 years, then you can't revive that post. Suppose the post is vacant, 2 साल हो गया, उसमें incumbent आया नहीं, लेकिन that post is required for you, but you cannot revive that post. General manager cannot revive that post. It has to be sent to the railway board for revival of this post. And granting of provisional payment beyond 3 months to an incumbent of any post beyond available sanction. Sanction available है 31/12. At the most March तक उसका salary GM कर दे सकते हैं. उसके बाद GM को powers नहीं है even for trying the salary. और इसमें ये बाकी के तो पूरे existing है. Granting to a railway employee emoluments higher than that admissible under the railway rules. अगर जो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया के जो रूल्स हैं, DOBT के रूल्स है, उसके अंतर्गत हैं तो GM कर सकते हैं, उसके बाद नहीं कर सकते, उसके बियॉन्ड नहीं कर सकते. Awards, rewards का उसमें कुछ ज़्यादा difference कुछ भी नहीं है. There is no difference. Only these have been consolidated. Award, reward, honorarium, ex gratia as under are revised from time to time. जो सभी उसको उसमें एक पैरा में लाया, एक आइटम है A3. A4 is other matters as under. यहाँ पर और एक important है, the acceptance of resignation of a gazetted officer. This is another significant change. The acceptance of resignation of a gazetted officer. Earlier, the general manager used to accept the resignation up to senior scale. But now, as per this delegation, I think general manager cannot accept the resignation of any gazetted officer, not even the junior scale. Whether it is the group B or group A, because he has a gazetted officer. The acceptance of resignation of a gazetted officer, then it has to go to the railway board, and then from there it is the DOPT probably. Remaining में कुछ difference नहीं है. That was the only difference here in this. Works matters. That was the establishment matters. Now the works matters. Works matters maybe there is no much difference, but there are some differences which I noticed. Here, say for lump sum, the powers to approve works. Now they are using sanction of works here, but this is not sanction of works actually. This is an administrative approval to the abstract estimates. So sanction of works here we should read it as a administrative approval to the abstract estimates or approval to the abstract estimates. So in the planet's new lines, gauge conversion, railway electrification works, metropolitan works, new project surveys, we don't have any powers to process. General manager doesn't have any powers to approve the works, give administrative approval to the works under these planets. So all these proposals will be sent to board separately through surveys. First, the work will be included in the budget as a survey, and after taking up the survey report will go to the board. Board will there will be some the committees, estimates committee, including estimates committee. They will decide which project which can be sanctioned and which is to be not sanctioned. So once it is decided that this project can be taken up, then that work will get included in the budget. For other planets, general manager has 2.5 crores powers, except in case of existing railway schools, hospitals, dispensaries, institutions, officers, club, rest houses, holidays, he can approve only up to 1 crore. And under planet 3000 is the ROBs. The general manager has powers only up to 1 crore. So 1 crore in respect of the staff amenities. Here the staff welfare planet is there 5100. In that staff amenities, general manager can approve 1 crore, but quarters he can approve up to 2.5 crores. The construction of quarters if required, he can go up to 2.5 crores. But only under this particular planet, staff welfare works, the GM has powers only up to 1 crore in respect of railway schools, hospitals, dispensaries, institutes, clubs, rest houses, etc. And for works under PH30, it is only 1 crore. It was earlier, it was 2.5 crores. See, the executives used to process up to 2.49 crores, and naturally, when you take up a ROB, the cost goes generally almost double the time. So even before the tender is, before the first bill is passed, the expenditure incurred goes beyond 2.5 crores. So then that required the sanction of the board. So board has said that you please, the powers, we are reducing your powers, we are making only up to 1 crore. This is actually good revision. We can avoid the excess over estimates here. We can avoid excess over estimates going to the railway board. M&B up to 50 lakhs, this we have seen. And one more, it's an important clarification has been made here. Out of done works are not permitted under computerization and M&B. Of course, under this new line gauge converter GC, of course, it is not applicable. For other planets, the general manager is having powers, but M&P and computerization, no OT. No OT under M&P. no OT under computerization, these planets. And for customer amenity works, DRM may sanction works under 5,300 up to 2.5 crores under lump sum as well as OT. Here, the powers to sanction OT works under planet 5,300 customer amenities has been given to the DRS. So here, we all know that what is the condition for taking up an OT work? The executive department has to identify funds from their ongoing works, which are itemized works in the pink book, costing more than 2.5 crores. They should identify funds from where they can take out from. They have some 5 to 6 works in the pink book, so they should list out. I'm taking 10 lakhs from this work, 20 lakhs from this work, 50 lakhs from this work. If they are able to identify funds and then come out with a proposal to the finance can agree. If they are not showing the funds, they are not identifying the funds, then we cannot agree to the proposal of OT. For estimates, there is no change for sanctioning of here. The sanction of estimates is the detailed estimates. Earlier we were talking about the abstract estimates. Now it is the detailed estimates. When the abstract estimate is done, then detailed estimates here. These detailed estimates, general manager as usual up to 20% duty other than escalation, and any amount with the escalation of the cost. And material modification also is restricted to 2.5 crores. Contracts also, there is not much difference here. Here in the earlier delegation, they said to enter into a contract, GM had full powers. But now they have slightly modified this. The contract, they say incurrence of expenditure for engaging, obtaining consulting service in excess of 10 crores. They have omitted about the other contract, but it doesn't mean that he cannot enter into contracts. He can certainly enter into, GM can certainly enter into contract irrespective of the value. The general manager and the HODs, and DRMs and the J grade officers and the senior scale officers can enter into contract to the extent available in the MSOP. Legal matters, there is no change. The filing or defending an appeal in the Supreme Court requires railway board sanction. The engagement of Railway Council on scale of fees higher than the prescribed by Ministry of Law and Justice also requires the railway board sanction. And the engagement of council at more than 1,050 rupees per day in Supreme Court or in any other high courts, or at more than 750 per day elsewhere. This also requires the sanction of the railway board. Up to 1050, up to 750 GM can sanction. Payment of fees in excess of scales of fees fixed by high courts also requires the sanction of railway board. Suppose if it is fixed by high court, then you can sanction. But beyond that, it has to go to railway board. There is no change in the commercial matters, almost same. Railway assets is also same. Not much, there is no change actually. Only the consolidated. Here, the sale of any portion of line, any item of authorized rolling stock. Earlier there was an item land also, but that has been deleted. So sale of any portion of railway line, any item of authorized rolling stock, GM does not have powers. However, the sale of following may be excluded from the above delegation. So that means GM has powers here. Railway component can be sold for the purpose of vendor product development at book rate, latest purchase rate, whichever is higher, with usual charges as permitted in stores code. Movable asset can be sold on book rate. These are the exemptions. When it comes to miscellaneous matters, here, reappropriation of funds, there is a separate letter, railway board letter. that also has been included here. The purchase of motor car, motorboat, truck, or any other vehicle is banned. So it is, if you want to procure, it has to be sent to railway board. On replacement account, you can include in the inventory, subject to approval of the railway board. The general manager does not have any powers to approve any procurement of vehicle either on replacement basis or on new basis. Here also the arbitration, the same powers. So these were the highlights of the correction slip 90. So there was some doubt in the morning that GM can incur expenditure in connection with training of a railway servant outside the railway institutions up to ₹1 crore. So, but this already been given in the MSOP to the PCPO. The powers have been redelegated. Though this correction slip MSOP says that this requires the sanction of general manager, but these powers have already been given to the PCPO there. So there was a doubt there. When the negative powers have come and it is said that this can be done by general manager, then how these powers can be exercised by the PCPO? My answer is very clear. The existing delegation will continue. The existing delegation will continue. The items available in the negative powers is only outer limits. Few items are there which requires personal sanction. Those items cannot be redelegated, which have not been delegated also to the PHODs and the CHODs. But the items which can be given to the PHODs, CHODs, which have already been given to the CHODs, PHODs, which can be sanctioned by them. Just because the PHODs, CHODs have not been included in this these negative powers, it doesn't mean that the existing powers of the PCPOs or PHODs cannot be exercised. This is only this correction slip is only an outer limit, but existing delegation will continue. Now we'll discuss how to make the corrections to this MSOP or your MSOP. You have various railways. Railways have adopted their own MSOP. Has been adopted as it is. MSOP has been revised, modified to some extent, and then adopted it. Suppose some department wants some change in the existing the delegation in the MSOP, or they want to change the procedure. They want to change some certain conditions in the delegation. So that time, what happens? Who should initiate the proposal? So actually, the nodal officer for these correction slips or the MSOP, SOP is the DGMG of the concerned railways. So respective PHODs shall initiate the proposal for correction. They can initiate the proposal. Some officer can suggest to PHOD, sir, इसको ऐसा modify करेंगे तो ठीक रहेगा, ये जो condition थोड़ा practical नहीं है, इसको modify कर सकते हैं. तो वो proposal भेजेगा अपने PHOD के पास, PHOD उसको examine करेगा. If he agrees really it is creating some problem to the administrative process में problem हो रहा है, so this can be done. So he will make a proposal. He'll send a proposal to the DGMG. So DGMG देखेंगे उसको. अगर suppose if it is within the purview of the delegation and there is no infringement of other restrictions, then he will process it for finance concurrence. Finance concurrence को भेजेंगे. Finance उसको examine करेगा same. Then if the finance concurrence is given, a draft correction slip is prepared by the DGMG and put up to the general manager. Once the general manager approves to the correction, then the DGMG can issue a correction slip. And correction slips can also be issued by the railway board. MSOP भी उनके पास है. तो suppose अभी जो correction slip आया, जो negative powers हैं, उसका करेक्शन स्लिप आपको आ जाएगा, शॉर्टली आ जाएगा, शायद आ भी गया होगा, मुझे पता नहीं है, लेकिन आ जाएगा उसका। दिल से the annexure 2, the annexure 1 available in the MSOP is replaced with this correction, these the negative powers. So they can also issue correction slip to the MSOP. So railways also can issue correction slip to the MSOP, and the railway board also can issue the correction to the MSOP. The local railways can issue depending on the requirement. The railway board can issue on broader items and broader issues. तो करेक्शंस क्यों जरूरत पड़ते हैं? तो मॉडिफिकेशन रिक्वायर्ड बाय वे ऑफ फर्दर डेलीगेशन, बोर्ड से डेलीगेशन आ गया तो फिर करेक्शन करना पड़ेगा। रीडेलीगेशन की जरूरत हो गई तो फिर करेक्शन करना पड़ेगा। कुछ कोडल प्रोविजंस मॉडिफाई हो गए, प्रोसीजर्स मॉडिफाई हो गए तो फिर उसको करेक्शन करना पड़ेगा। अगर कुछ डेलीगेशन अवेलेबल नहीं है, एमएसओपी में इसकी जरूरत है तो फिर करेक्शन होगा। तो इस तरह करेक्शन होते रहेंगे। तो करेक्शन का प्रोसीजर ये है, एंड देन फाइनली करेक्शन स्लिप विल बी इशू। जब बहुत सारे करेक्शन स्लिप इशू हो जाएंगे 50, 60, 100, देन अगेन फिर एमएसओपी को फिर रिवाइज करना पड़ेगा। अब तक तो कमी है, सो देयर इज नो प्रॉब्लम। इन अर्लियर डेज रेलवेज में 1985 का जो ओरिजिनल एसओपी होता था, उसके बाद में करेक्शंस कितने 100-150 करेक्शंस होते थे। उसको करेक्ट करने में, उसको पढ़ने में बड़ी दिक्कत आती थी। So now this MSOP will be revised, I hope, every 2 years, 3 years, depending on the number of corrections in that. ठीक है, तो ये रहा। अभी now I would like you to ask any questions, discussion we will have on various any item of MSOP, और कुछ भी जनरल आइटम आप अगर पूछना चाहें MSOP पे तो आप पूछ सकते हैं। You can unmute your videos and then ask questions.
Sir, can I unmute all the participants?
Yes, please.
Okay. Participants, you can ask questions.
Ajay raised hand. Please ask question.
सर नमस्ते।
Okay.
सर जीएम नेगेटिव पावर का उदाहरण देके समझाइए सर, कोई एग्जांपल।
अभी आपका जो आप एसओपी देखा आपने कभी?
जी सर, 2018 मॉडल एसओपी
देखा है ना, उसमें मैनेजर है, नहीं तो आपके पास फाइनेंस कोड है, तो फाइनेंस कोड चैप्टर 5 में आप ओपन करेंगे तो वहां पर जो एक अनेक्सर लगा हुआ है, उसमें ये लिखते हैं कि भाई दी फॉलोइंग आइटम्स रिक्वायर्स द सैंक्शन ऑफ हायर अथॉरिटी। अब अगर आपके जो जीएसटी का जो जीएसटी इज एप्लीकेबल ऑन फॉलोइंग आइटम्स
जी,
तो मतलब क्या है, ये जो नीचे दिए गए आइटम्स में जीएसटी लगता है।
जी
जीएसटी नहीं लगता है, सॉरी, जीएसटी नहीं लगता है, तो मतलब क्या है, बाकी के सब आइटम में जीएसटी लगता है। उसी तरह अभी जब हमारे एमएसओपी में उसको बोलते हैं कि भाई दिस रिक्वायर्स द फॉलोइंग आइटम्स रिक्वायर द सैंक्शन ऑफ हायर अथॉरिटी, मतलब ये आइटम्स आप सैंक्शन नहीं कर सकते हैं। जीएम आप ये आइटम सैंक्शन नहीं कर सकते हैं। इसके अलावा ये आइटम्स होने दो या मॉनेटरी वैल्यू होने दो, इसके बियॉन्ड आप सैंक्शन नहीं कर सकते हैं। उसके ऊपर जो भी आता है आप हमारे पास भेज दीजिए। तो मतलब ये आप नहीं कर सकते हैं, बोर्ड को जाना चाहिए।
अच्छा, जो
आइटम इसमें नहीं दिए गए हैं वो आप कर सकते हैं, मतलब वो है।
अच्छा,
इसलिए उसको नेगेटिव पावर बोलते हैं।
अच्छा। और एक क्वेश्चन सर और है सर, ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन सेल क्या होता है सर? ये
क्या है, एक रेलवे बोर्ड में एक नया डायरेक्टरेट माफिक एक सेल बना है, ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन सेल, उसको ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन डायरेक्टरेट बोल रहे हैं। तो उसमें वो सेल इसलिए फॉर्म हुआ है कि भाई अपना जो रेलवे में बहुत पुराने सिस्टम चल रहे हैं, अभी पुराना डेलीगेशन चल रहा है, तो इस पुराने सिस्टम्स को हटाइए, पुराना डेलीगेशन को हटाइए, रेलवे को ट्रांसफॉर्म करिए, बल्कि एक सेल फॉर्म किया गया है रेलवे बोर्ड में, उसको ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन सेल बोलते हैं। एमएसओपी उन्हीं का योगदान है। ठीक है
जी सर, ओके, धन्यवाद, थैंक यू सर।
थैंक यू
सर।
जी
हाँ सर, ये एग्जाम में जैसा आता है, एग्जाम में जैसा नॉर्मल सा है, मोबिलाइजेशन एडवांस।
हाँ, आपको एग्जाम में ऐसा आता है, whose sanction is required for creation of
हाँ सर,
a temporary post in
जी जी
in a DCM's
हाँ
office। तो उसमें ऑप्शन देते हैं आपको DRM, आपको PHOD, GM और रेलवे बोर्ड। आप क्या लिखेंगे?
सर नॉर्मली अभी तो ये ऑप्शन वाला भी आया नहीं, नॉर्मल पहले हम लोग आता था, तो उसमें हम लोग क्या GM या रेलवे बोर्ड लिखना पड़ेगा देन, या उससे और डीप
आपको
कहीं पर
चार देगा,
जाके
ऑप्शन क्या
लिखना
देगा वहां पर? 4 देगा आपको, DRM देगा, PHOD देगा, GM देगा, रेलवे बोर्ड देगा। आप क्या लिखेंगे? रेलवे बोर्ड लिखेंगे।
रेलवे बोर्ड लिखेंगे।
और क्या पूछेगा
और
वो?
यदि
टू सैंक्शन ए OOT वर्क, OOT M&P अंडर प्लैनेट 4100 कॉस्टिंग 35 lakhs, कौन करेगा? उसमें DRM देगा आपको, PHOD देगा, GM देगा, बोर्ड देगा। सो अब जो OOT इज नॉट एप्लीकेबल अंडर प्लैनेट 4100, तो मतलब OOT जो अगर करना है तो फिर बोर्ड जाना पड़ेगा। तो इस तरह वो देंगे।
तो मतलब आंसर में केवल हम लोग रेलवे बोर्ड GM लिखेंगे, या उसके नीचे वाले यदि जैसा PHOD
जो भी एप्लीकेबल वो लिखेंगे ना। अब वो मान लो आप
जो एप्लीकेबल है वो,
वर्क है, एक लमसम वर्क है, लमसम वर्क अंडर प्लैनेट 5300 कौन सैंक्शन कर सकता है? DRM, PHOD
DRM
कर सकता है, तो वही लिखेंगे आप। तो इसमें कॉम्पिटेंसी पूछेगा, वो कॉम्पिटेंसी पूछेगा, उसमें कॉम्पिटेंसी लिखेंगे आप।
ओके, थैंक्स सर।
हु इज द नोडल ऑफिसर फॉर SOP ऑन जोन रेलवे? बोलेगा GM, बोलेगा
डिप्टी दिया क्या, GM जनरल। हाँ ओके।
सर नमस्ते।
नमस्ते जी, बोलिए
सर। सर पूछ रहे थे सर, SOP तो सर विद बुक्स का सर पोर्शन था सर। तो सर अभी जो मल्टीपल चॉइस क्वेश्चन या जो भी हो रहा है सर, क्या होगा मालूम नहीं, लेकिन सर क्या MSOP पूरा का पूरा याद रखना?
हाँ समझ लिया मैं, आपको क्वेश्चन समझ लिया है। ये जो MSOP है ना, आपका जो सब्जेक्टिव क्वेश्चन पेपर रहेगा, उसमें आपको एक केस स्टडी देंगे। वो केस स्टडी देके आप उसमें पूछ सकते हैं, लेकिन जनरल क्वेश्चंस हैं, जो ब्रॉड क्वेश्चंस हैं, आपको ऑब्जेक्टिव में पूछ सकते हैं।
सर जब ऑब्जेक्टिव में पूछेगा सर, तो ऑप्शन दे देगा 4 ठोस,
देगा, ऑप्शन देगा। ऑब्जेक्टिव में पूछेगा तो ऑप्शन देगा। आपको पता होना चाहिए ब्रॉडली, ऐसा नहीं कि हर बात को आप देखना, SOP देखना, ऐसा नहीं। ब्रॉडली आपको पता होना चाहिए। आज जो डिस्कस किए हैं आइटम्स, एक बार नेगेटिव पावर्स पढ़ लीजिए, बस एक बार नेगेटिव पावर्स पढ़ लीजिए एक बार। आपको तो पता है वर्क्स मैटर्स में क्या चीजें आती हैं, एस्टेब्लिशमेंट में क्या चीजें आती हैं, बस ये ब्रॉड तो आपको पता होना चाहिए MSOP का। वो ऑब्जेक्टिव पूछ सकता है। और बाकी के जो यानी कुछ प्रपोजल देगा, प्रपोजल देके इसमें किसका सैंक्शन लगता है, वो पूछेगा, यानी सब्जेक्टिव क्वेश्चन में पूछेगा आपको। जब केस स्टडीज में रहेगा तो उसमें पूछ सकता है।
सर मतलब एज ए होल मुझे MSOP का ओवरव्यू पूरा का पूरा मुझे देख लेना पड़ेगा, जानना मेरे दिमाग में रहना चाहिए।
जनरली तो आपको होना चाहिए, आपको आइडिया होना चाहिए MSOP के क्या पार्ट्स हैं, GM के नेगेटिव पावर्स क्या है, बस।
जी सर, ओके सर।
सर ऐसे ही वो डिमांड नंबर में एकदम एलोकेशन तक अंदर जाकर के, जैसा हम लोग मोटा मोटी डिमांड नंबर जानते हैं, और ज्यादा हुआ तो मतलब उसके एकदम डीपली जाकर के डिटेल हेड तक तो नॉर्मल से किसी को याद नहीं हो सकता है। एकदम डिटेल हेड तो वैसा क्वेश्चन करेगा तो मुश्किल हो जाएगा।
इसमें डिटेल्स जाने की जरूरत नहीं है, इसमें
जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगा सर।
अभी बात हुई थी, हमने पूछा किसका सैंक्शन चाहिए फॉर क्रिएशन ऑफ पोस्ट। अगर GM 3 महीने के बाद भी पेमेंट कर सकते हैं क्या, ऐसी चीजें तो जनरल है ना। ये ऐसी चीजें तो आपको ज्ञात होना चाहिए।
नहीं वो तो सर नॉर्मल सा ठीक है, ओके। यदि माइनर हेड के अंदर ही पूछ लेगा, माइनर हेड में, तो फिर माइनर हेड नॉर्मल किसी को मतलब नॉर्मल डिमांड नंबर याद है, माइनर हेड है, चलो कुछ प्राइम यूनिट याद रहता है, लेकिन एकदम माइनर हेड हर डिमांडमेंट। जी सर,
वो तो आपको ऑब्जेक्टिव में पूछेगा, लेकिन इसमें जो आपके MSOP जो है, इसमें आपको उतना डिटेल में जाने की जरूरत नहीं है। बस मोटा मोटा आपको ये याद रखना है कि GM क्या कर सकते हैं, क्या नहीं कर सकते। एक बार आप अपना ना जो MSOP में जो अनेक्षर 1 और 2 जो है ना, वो पढ़ लीजिए बस। उसके बाद आपको जरूरत नहीं, उसके आगे जरूरत नहीं।
अच्छा सर, ये अभी जो करेक्शन है, ये करेक्शन अभी इसका नया आ गया है क्या, मतलब नॉर्मल सा वो जो 21/9/2021 का है, 21/9/2001 का लेटर है कुछ, वो सर वही है?
21 सितंबर को आया था करेक्शन।
जी जी जी, ओके ओके, हाँ सर, मैं को कंप्यूटर में निकाल के रखी, ओके ओके ओके, थैंक्स सर।
जी
सर बोल रहा था सर, इसमें से अगर मल्टीपल चॉइस क्वेश्चन, जैसे बोल रहे थे कि एमएसओपी से मल्टीपल चॉइस क्वेश्चन आ सकता है, तो सर मल्टीपल चॉइस क्वेश्चन तो सर जो एग्जामिनर है कहीं से भी पूछ सकता है। तो सर मुझे तो सर पूरा पूरी तो सर मुझे पढ़ना है, क्योंकि सर कहाँ से मल्टीपल चॉइस क्वेश्चन एमएसओपी के
में अभी एमएसओपी उतना डिटेल में मत जाइए। आपको केवल जो नेगेटिव पावर्स है ना, उसमें अभी जो हमने डिस्कस किया है उसमें ब्रॉडली देख लीजिए, और आपका जो अनेक्सर 2 है एमएसओपी के, उसमें आपको डीआरएम के पावर्स, पीएचओडी के पावर्स हैं, वो देख लीजिए। बस वो एक बार पढ़ने से याद हो जाएंगे आपको। उसमें क्या है, बहुत सारे जीएम और बोर्ड पहले होता था, आजकल क्या है डीआरएम भी है, डीआरएम को भी पावर्स दिए गए। बस खाली
जी सर
मोटा मोटा देख लीजिए, बस वर्क्स मैटर्स में, बस उतने।
जी सर ऐसे पूछ रहे थे सर, आप सर आपके हिसाब से, आपका पर्सनल हिसाब से सर कब हो सकता है सर एग्जाम हम लोगों का? सर ऐसे ही पूछ रहे थे सर।
जी जी, मेरे ख्याल से 1 महीने में नोटिफिकेशन आ जाना चाहिए।
ओके सर तो फिर क्या सर मार्च अप्रैल में क्या सर होने का संभावना है सर? क्योंकि सर वो तो ईयर एंडिंग होता है।
इस साल नोटिफिकेशन आएगा और आप मई जून में एग्जाम होगा।
ओके सर, ओके थैंक यू सर।
और ऑब्जेक्टिव होने का चांस कितना % है सर?
कौन सा?
ऑब्जेक्टिव या सब्जेक्टिव का कुछ चांसेस कैसा रहेगा सर? कुछ
अभी मेरे ख्याल से कुछ मीटिंग भी चल रही है यूनियन संघ से, उसके बाद में वो लोग अगर अपना उनका जो राय है उसके ऊपर रहता है, लेकिन ऑब्जेक्टिव 75-25 तो रहेगा। 75% ऑब्जेक्टिव रहेगा, 25% सब्जेक्टिव रहेगा। अब मेरे ख्याल से ना आपको इजी होगा, इट विल नॉट बी दैट डिफिकल्ट लाइक अर्लियर। आपको इजी रहेगा एग्जामिनेशन।
सर इजी कैसे होगा, सारे सब्जेक्ट में सब पेपर को मिला दे रहे हैं, तो सर इजी क्या, सब इतना वास्ट सब्जेक्ट है सर। इंडिविजुअल सब्जेक्ट
नहीं, आप एक बार लिखिए, आपको पता चलेगा कि भाई इतना बहुत सिंपल है। आप जो सिंसियर है, अगर आप अपने ऑफिस में काम कर रहे हैं, बस इतना बस है, थोड़ा जानकारी डिफरेंट उसको आप जरूरी भी है, क्योंकि एज ए सेक्शन ऑफिसर टुमारो यू विल बी वर्किंग एनीवेयर, तो आपको जनरल जानकारी तो होना चाहिए। विनोद बोलिए। विनोद।
सर नमस्कार सर।
नमस्ते
सर, मुझे सर ये जानकारी चाहिए कि सब्जेक्टिव एक पेपर है और सारा ये कंप्यूटर बेस्ड होना है, जैसा कि सर
अभी पैटर्न मेरे ख्याल से आपको 15-20 दिन में मेरे ख्याल से बोर्ड इश्यू करना चाहिए, वो हम गेस नहीं कर सकते।
सब्जेक्टिव को सर, क्योंकि ये प्रस्ताव जो बना है सर मसौदा, उसमें बहुत कंट्राडिक्टरी बना है कि
सही बात है, आई कैन अंडरस्टैंड। आपकी बार बहुत सारा लंबा खींच रहा है, बहुत सारा यानी लोग गेस कर रहे हैं, तो उसमें थोड़ा टेंशन हो रहा है, लेकिन आप यू कीप योर स्टडीज ऑन। आपका रोज का 1 आधा घंटा बस, ज्यादा नहीं, 1 आवर 1/2 एन आवर आप करते रहिए, हो जाएगा।
सर मैथ्स तो नहीं आएगा? मैथ्स और इंग्लिश?
मैथमेटिक्स
में मैंने बैलेंस शीट वगैरह तो ओके, और अदर मैथमेटिक्स सभी क्वेश्चन रहेंगे क्या सर?
नहीं बिल्कुल, मैथमेटिक्स क्यों आता है? मैथमेटिक्स तो नहीं आता है।
नहीं आएगा ना, ओके। और सर इंग्लिश वगैरह, वो जो पैसेज वगैरह लिखा था उसमें कुछ और ऐसे वगैरह इस तरह के क्वेश्चन आएंगे? ये मतलब लोकल अपने लैंग्वेज में लिखना है?
इंग्लिश नहीं पूछेगा, क्योंकि इंग्लिश तो नहीं होना चाहिए, वो गलत है। इंग्लिश तो नहीं होना चाहिए, जिसको ऑलरेडी
नहीं होना चाहिए ना। हाँ भाई, क्योंकि पहले इतना सब्जेक्ट है सर, उसके बाद फिर और सब्जेक्ट डाल देना तो
इसमें होगा। आपका जो आगे एग्जाम है, आप
एलडीसी के लिए तो हाँ, वो तो उसमें है। ओके,
इसमें नहीं।
ओके सर, ओके।
केवल हम गेस कर इसमें जो बोर्ड से जो ऑर्डर्स आएंगे वो तो फाइनल होंगे, हम खाली गेस कर सकते हैं बस, ठीक है।
Sir, share PPT in this chat box, sir.
अच्छा ठीक है, I'll do that.
Before that, please close in the share screen.
सर कल
बोलिए।
हाँ सर, कल का पीपीटी, कल सर दोपहर को जो क्लास लिए थे उसका पीपीटी नहीं मिला है सर, प्लीज उसको भी शेयर कर दीजिएगा।
थोड़ा और बच गया था ना, मैं वो करके फिर नेक्स्ट क्लास में दूंगा।
अच्छा ओके ओके, थैंक्स सर।
Sir, if there are no further queries, shall we close?
Yeah, Nagesh, I'll send the
Yes, sir.
PPT to you. You can
On behalf
share
of
it.
the Academy, I thank Shri Mohd Afzaluddin, sir,
Thank you.
for taking up the session on MSOP with latest changes. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will have next session on Monday. The login time is 2:45 and the class session starts at 3 o'clock. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thanks, sir. Thank you.